So, everyone, welcome to our Mayor's Breaking It Down. We're live today from DC, and my co host with me today is Victoria Thompson from the great city of Birmingham originally. So, Victoria is our director of grants and programs for the African American Mayors Association. Welcome, Victoria.
Oh, shucks. Thank you, Phyllis. Heard them,
Friday. You're talking to the Southern girls today. So, Victoria, today we have live with us Mayor Cherelle Parker. Great city. Great city. You want to name the city for me?
Go ahead, Phyllis. You got it.
Philadelphia. All right. So, Mayor Parker, let's get this conversation started. All right. So, let's start off with after years of serving in Philadelphia in legislative roles, what was the adjustment like stepping into the role of mayor?
Wow. So I think the difference is you get the ability to act and to implement and operationalize. So all of the years that I spent, and this is important to affirm, not just serving as an elected official, I remind people that I started as a 17-year-old intern in the City Council of Philadelphia for my mentor, Philadelphia's legendary Marion Tasco, another councilwoman named Augusta Clark. They were on council, and they sort of adopted me, Phyllis and Victoria, when I was a senior in high school, wrote a speech about my life, and these two women, they adopted me. As, they were from the South too, so we're going to learn you something. And so the difference is, having served as a staffer for 15 years, serving in the Pennsylvania House for 10 years, and then coming back and serving in council, it was a full circle moment, but an opportunity to begin implementing solutions and, thoughts around how we could solve problems, and then working with the legislative branch, the council, state legislative leaders. So it really has been a great experience for me. But you do feel, it's very important, it's a different responsibility. The shoulders feel a little more heavy, but the pressure's a privilege. I asked the people of Philadelphia to give me a shot to lead, and just as a FYI, my promise was, if you give me a chance to lead, I work to make Philadelphia one of the safest, cleanest, greenest big cities in the nation with economic opportunity for all. And being able to move on that and have the staff resources to actually pull that together, that's really the difference.
Well, Mayor, from your time on the Philadelphia City Council, what lessons about navigating bureaucracy and power dynamics have been most important during your first year in office?
Now, Victoria went straight for the job.
I did.
Straight for the job.
Let's go for it.
I thank God that I had an opportunity to serve, again, staff, and then member in my own right, because I respect the legislative body, having, worked in it and supported a council person. So I understand that work. And then having served in Harrisburg to realize what a super, heavy responsibility that is, because all cities depend on funding, from the states, and in my instance, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So when you hear me talk about, when I was on the campaign trail, Phyllis and Victoria is really interested. There's probably 100 people running for mayor in the city of Philadelphia, right? And I started talking about the importance of intergovernmental cooperation and planning and collaboration and the convening power of the mayor. And I would literally watch sometimes some people in the audience, so they were laugh, what in the world is she talking about? But with having served in council and served in the legislature, if you don't have everyone who impacts an issue at every level of government at the table, then you're working in silos. And so I would argue, for me, that's probably been the most valuable, respecting the City Council of Philadelphia, who I have the pleasure of working with, and the General Assembly members who go fight in that General Assembly for us. I respect their work. It doesn't mean that we're all always going to agree, but because I had to serve in a place, and this is different when you have to deal with a bipartisan legislature because our Senate was controlled by Republicans. In the House, I know what it's like to be in the majority. I was in the majority and the minority. And I know it's a big difference when you're going into that main conference room versus upstairs on the fourth floor because of the output and what you're able to get accomplished. But it also forces you to understand when you've worked with a Republican governor, a Republican-controlled House, when I chaired the Philadelphia delegation in Harrisburg and a Republican-controlled Senate, but you have crises and issues that are facing your city that you can't go back home and give a good speech and say, I fought the good fight. No. School District of Philadelphia was not going to be able to open in September because it had a structural deficit without laying off teachers, school bus drivers, administrators. So that would have been CASA, SEIU, PFT, all of the men and women vested in keeping our school district going. So I couldn't say, oh, I chair the Philadelphia delegation in Harrisburg, but the Republicans are in charge. So I can't. So it forced me, Phyllis, to have to do the hard work of one, getting to know people who I agreed to disagree with, more times than not, but understand how important it was to reach much needed compromise if I wanted to deliver for that school district of Philadelphia. We did it with a cigarette tax. We did it with a sales tax increase. That's ultimately now the foundation of Philadelphia's municipal pension system being 100% funded by 30. Right, we were 45% funded when I was in the Pennsylvania General Assembly. I was there from 2005 to January of 2016. We were 45% funded. That unfunded liability was unbelievable. Moody's, Fitch, S&P, our credit rating in the dumps, highest credit rating city of Philadelphia has had, which didn't just start because I'm here, but because of decisions that we made to fix structural challenges. And I will tell you, as a black woman serving as the mayor, having served as in the legislature, it is very important to me that fiscal stability that is not always, naturally considered to be a part of what we desire. And for me to be able to say, look, that's important here. It's really heartening to me, and it was essential to the work that I do. And so that was understanding the legislature and the work that they do. I had the first black woman speaker in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania who was a state legislator from Philadelphia named Joanna McClinton. Trailblazing, trend-setting, glass ceiling breaking. She is now the Speaker of the House. She's a legislator from Philly. Jordan Harris is the appropriations chairman from Philly on the House side. My good brother mentor, I call him my therapist. Sister Sora Shirley Ralph, he's my therapist. Vincent Hughes, he's the Democratic appropriations on the Senate side. All of us have to work together. Kenyatta Johnson, he's the president of the City Council of Philadelphia. And we have to work like this with our congressional delegation as well. So I'm happy I did, Victoria, because it taught me valuable lessons. You can scream and you can holler and you can do that, Phyllis. But when you want to get something done, you do your homework. I don't have the luxury of allowing my pride, ego, or emotions to drive my decision making. I'm the mayor. People expect me to fix things. They want solutions. Don't come telling them this is a federal issue or a state issue. You're the mayor. You are supposed to fix it. And that's what we are trying to do, but I can't do it alone. All of us working together is the only way we get things accomplished.
So, Mayor, looking back on your first year as mayor, what's the most important lesson you've learned thus far?
No, you saw Roy. What are you like? She leaning on the shield hard today, Phyllis. Phyllis and Victoria, one of the things I talked about on the campaign trail, Philadelphia had a heavy challenge with one of the largest open air drug markets in the nation, in the city of Philadelphia. And I promised the city that I wouldn't turn a blind eye to. People, particularly people try to associate it with one area in particular, but it impacts neighborhoods throughout the city. And so when I came up with a strategy of wanting to address it, I said, we won't continue doing things the way that we've been doing them. I want to focus on a holistic approach that will focus on long-term care, treatment, and housing as it relates to addiction, substance use disorder, mental and behavioral health challenges. And I went and found some city-owned land in a building that had been vacant for many years. Challenge. The land, although beautiful riverfront land, is contiguous with our prison, our county prison. So when I talked about the vision of what I saw, because I'm a product of very humble beginnings. I was born to a single teenage mother, raised by my grandparents. I grew up my grandmother received public assistance, for me. I like to remind people, you don't have to give me a white paper and think you're going to lecture me on poverty, because I took colored money in books to the supermarket, brown, purple 20s, green 10s, and brown dollars. And so I know what that's like. But the vision for me was to make sure that people had access to dignity, and that even though they may be at the most challenging, place and space in their own lives, that they deserve dignity from their city, and support should be readily available to them. And their socioeconomic status or familial lineage shouldn't be the determining factor about whether or not they would get that help. So we put together a plan. I said, we're going to build it out here. We're going to give a place for people to be able to stay for up to a year, so they'll have a place to stay. So long-term care, treatment, and housing, the best mental and behavioral health providers are readily available in the city. But make sure the services are there, because we're going to put people on a path to self-sufficiency. Well, immediately when I unveiled it, then this was the first time as mayor I'd gone through a campaign. It was pugilistic, right? But now you're just trying to get the work done. They put up signs in the neighborhood that says, Cherelle Parker wants you to die if you're suffering from addiction. She doesn't care about the community. And listen, they were very well organized. They were very well funded, because I was shifting away from the way things had been done, because I wasn't satisfied with the outcome. People need to be able, Phyllis and Victoria, this is my heart of hearts, and this is what mayors know better than anybody else. People need to be able to see, touch, and feel the results of your work in a very tangible way, because when they do, you make them believe in the government. So I didn't realize, Phyllis, one, we have to have thick skin to do what we do. But the pressure is a privilege. I asked for it. So you will never hear me complaining about it. But I'm human. So I had to get used to the noise surrounding the decision making that people didn't like. I have a son. I'm a part of the Old Moms Club. I started everything late. So my son Langston is 13. He just turned 13. And just being able to explain to him, mommy has to be accustomed to people, posting on social media. They may say things that are not nice, but we are from the birthplace of democracy, our city, and people have a right to share their thoughts and opinions, and we are not a monolith. We are not a monolithic people. We don't all think alike, and that's okay. But we have to do the best we can with what we have, using our lived life experience as a part of our foundation. So that was the challenge, to see people go that far. Cherelle Parker's a murderer. And it wasn't just me. It was a group called the Kensington Caucus of local council members who represented the area that I'm referencing. And they put up posters saying the same thing about them. Because I said the limited amount of revenue that the city has, we're going to put it here so for dignity and putting people on the path to self-sufficiency. And then hopefully we can get the philanthropic community to fill the gap. But we need to do something different. And when I tell you the pushback was heavy, it was heavy. But Phyllis and Victoria, travel to what we reference as Riverview Wellness Village right now to see what it's like for the hundreds of Philadelphians who are getting, top-notch care, health, mental, behavioral health, addiction, substance use disorder, treatment, anything that you could think of. They're using MAD, right? Medically assisted treatment is now, there on site. So when you see the results of that challenge and of that work, you say to yourself, God, it may not have felt like it when I was going through it, but to see people come up now and say, my family now thinks that there is hope, that my son, my daughter, my uncle, my aunt, my mother, my father, they may be able to get through this in this environment. Whoa, this environment is usually only readily available for people who can afford it. But to have this for Philadelphians, for that and the tour, it moves me in a powerful way.
That's beautiful. Now, Mayor, we know that you clearly hit the ground running on your first day with this series of executive orders. So what tangible impacts are you seeing from those early decisions, and how is your administration adjusting its approach moving forward?
What y'all like, let me come up with the toughest questions that we can ask the mayor. Y'all got there for all of us. Y'all do this to all the other mayors who've been here. I think one of the things, I got criticized a great deal about my public safety strategy. When I was in council, I had authored something called the Neighborhood Safety and Community Policing Plan. And this was at the same time that people were calling for, defunding of the police. And I would hear those people, but I would say, now that's interesting. When I'm on Ogans Avenue or Vernon Road, or Stanton Avenue, Mr. Brown and Ms. Johnson are not saying we need to defund the police. They're saying, Cherelle, where are our community policing officers? Walking the beat, riding the bike. There, not because it's a crisis, but they're getting to know the people they're sworn to protect and serve. That's how you strengthen community and police relations, and you get the fabric of the community, like a quilt, so to speak. And I was shocked that when we signed that executive order about public safety, and I laid out my comprehensive approach. If you say it in Philly, people know what it is. All you have to do is say, well, the mayor's public safety approach is the pie. And everybody's going to say prevention, intervention, and enforcement, because it's a holistic strategy. So we signed an executive order, making that our number one priority, talked about continuing to support our grassroots community-based organizations, because to me, they are the foundation. That's first. I'm a product of the Little League. I'm an Oak Lane Wildcat. I was a cheerleader. I ran track for the Philadelphia Flames. You don't know it when you're doing it, but now when you think back on your life, that was prevention work. That was intervention work. I was a part of a team. We had a coordinated activity where people who lived in my neighborhood ran this organization, both of those organizations. So that kept us going. So I'm thinking about Level Up and Pastor Campbell, Unity in the Community, Amir, Shantae Love, Every Murder is Real, No Mo, it's one more, Mothers in Charge, Dorothy Johnson's Spite, the group of mothers who have lost children to violence. We support those organizations and we invest in them. They are the foundation, without a doubt, of what you see as our reduction in violence in the city of Philadelphia. But from a homicide perspective, Philadelphia has had its lowest number of homicides that we'd had in over 50 years in the city of Philadelphia now. So, Victoria, very specifically, you went where I like, I always tell Philly, don't listen, like James Baldwin-esque, don't listen to what I say, watch what I do. We did the executive order. Now look at the fruits of the labor. Is it the police alone? No, because we can't police our way out of this alone. Is it just the community-based organizations? No, because that alone, without structure and order, that won't work. But it's all of the above. Support for extended day, extended year programs. So students who come from families who can't afford the academic enrichment programs, they have a place to go providing quality enrichment programs. winter break, summer break, spring break. They are plugged in to coordinated activity provided by institutions that wealthier families pay for on a regular basis. And so I'm excited about those two things, because that's my extended day, extended year program with the public schools. And it's not just traditional publics, it's traditional charters as well that are also public schools. Because I wouldn't let people, they've tried that very early on. I said, no, we had a mass shooting that impacted two schools. One was a charter, one was a traditional public. And when I went into those schools, guess what was the one common denominator? All of the children, they were ours. And they all come from the same communities and neighborhoods. So to see that happen, I'm really super proud about it.
Perfect.
Public safety and that educational economic opportunity.
So, as the first woman to hold this position, how has that shaped the way you approach leadership in the public and how the public proceeds?
When I was on the campaign trail, people would often talk about the history. And I was fortunate. I think it was maybe about 4 or 5 of dynamic women, all dynamic women, each with careers and a body of work that they could stand up and advocate for. So it was, and all of the people who ran for mayor, it was 100 of us, right? But let me tell you something, the field, Philadelphia could be proud of the field, because each and every candidate had a body of work that they could promote. And so as the women would get together and we would talk, everybody would talk about the history. And here I go, my grandmother's coming out of me. I'm listening to these people talk. And finally, I'm in a meeting one day or interview, and I say to them, listen, I'm not running to be a footnote in somebody else's history book. By the time I get finished serving, if the people of Philadelphia give me a chance, the fact that I'm a woman, let that be ancillary. But I want them to say that this mayor, she made us believe that local government could work again, that it was productive, and that we could see the results in a tangible way in our own life. She said she wanted to make the city safer. Let's look at the data and the metrics. And is our city safer? She wanted it cleaner and greener. Is my neighborhood cleaner and greener? Do I see more trees? What does the urban heat island index say? Does she brighten the streets? Is it greener? What about sustainability? What have you done to reduce the carbon, footprint? And then the most important of all, economic opportunity for all. For me, that's how you make any community stay safe and stable. You give people access to an opportunity to learn. You give me access to the opportunity to learn a skill that gives me the ability to do something every day that I love, where I can take care of my family. Now, you've put me on a path to self-sufficiency. I'm going to teach me how to fish kind of girl. I don't want you to give me anything, because there's a certain amount of pride and dignity that comes from being able to take care of yourself. And I'll be very honest with you, Phyllis and Victoria. I think I feel passionately about it because I come from humble beginnings. So I know what it's like as a child. You didn't get it because my village, my grandmother, my grandfather, my biological family, and then the community at large. Did I want for anything, Phyllis and Victoria? No, I didn't want for anything. I had everything I needed at every facet of my life. But the older you get and you begin to learn what access to opportunity and high quality public education. I came out of Philadelphia public schools under the leadership of the best superintendent ever, Dr. Constance E. Soror, Dr. Constance E. Clayton, who was no nonsense and expected excellence. I had everything I needed, but I also learned that my life was a little different. I didn't have, what Theo and Vanessa and Rudy had on the Cosby Show, right? I didn't have access to that, but I was rich in so many other ways. And the people in my village had extremely high expectations for me. And so I would learn later, listen, those food stamps are not, everybody doesn't need that. So I didn't want to need it, right? Because I wanted to be able to take care of myself. So when you see me fighting for economic mobility, Harvard economist Raj Chetty, did his research on economic mobility of regional metro areas across the U.S. Philadelphia metro area, we didn't come out good. We ranked 50 out of 50 and that research. But it, for me, put a laser focus for us on the importance of workforce development, economic mobility, plugging people into industries that are growing in every way in our city and in our region. And so I will argue to you, for me, the woman thing, it's important because you can't be what you don't see. So it is nice when I can see little boys and little chocolate boys and girls goes, is she the mayor for real? Is she the leader for real? I said, yes. And guess what? And one day you can be too. Know where you start doesn't mean that is where you are going to finish. And that's why the mobility part is important. But the gender piece, is it real? Do I see bias in reporting? Do I see bias in how I'm a very communicative person. I use my hands when I talk. People hear the intonation and inflection in my voice. Sometimes my voice is very, deep when I'm talking. And depending on who you're talking to, that you say, well, I don't feel it. Sometimes she just seems to be so angry. And, that whole angry, black woman stereotype. And, she's just so emotional. And sometimes, because I've been around a long time, I done seen the guys. I know the mayors, the people who have served in executive roles. And I'm thinking to myself, now you have some nerve, but nevertheless, what it does is it further strengthens my commitment to myself, and that because I had been the underdog in Getty here, like Paul Laurence Dunbar says in his poem, I didn't have to wear a mask, no matter the race or class or socioeconomic status of the constituency I was visiting. When I went to talk to black people, white people, Latino people, I didn't care who they were. My message was the same. And I was Cherelle, so I was allowed to be my authentic self when communicating. And this is going to sound crazy. Gussie Clark told me this. She's one of my mentors. When I was 17 years old, 17, I had won the contest. And I was so nervous about speaking in front of council. And she told me, remember, 17, I'm on my personal journey to self-discovery. I don't know who in the world I am or who I'm going to be. And she says, I'm going to tell you something that you can do better than anybody else in the world. 17, you insecure, like you trying to find your way. And I'm waiting. You mean something that little old me, Cherelle Parker, I can do something better than anybody else in the world? So I'm waiting now with bated breath. What is it? She says, guess what it is? What? Do you? No one can be you better than you. So, no one gets a right to occupy space in my mind or in my world where you think you're going to be able to tell me I need to walk like, talk like, act like, think like, speak like any of my predecessors or anybody else in the world, because I get a right to be my authentic self. Now that makes people uncomfortable. I want to be very straight with you, Victoria, and listen, Phyllis, some people are very uncomfortable with that because they want you to be a chameleon, and you depending on the audience and the time, they expect you to shift. You would know it if I tried to do it, because it wouldn't. You would say, I know Cherelle. I've been around Cherelle. Phyllis, you would say, I remember when I first met Cherelle. That's not the Cherelle Parker, I'm that. But it feels good. And right now, as mayor, what am I learning? I do try to motivate, inspire, and encourage girls as much as I can, because definitely we need to do that so that girls begin to see themselves, and leadership as a path that is for them. But very much for me, I'm trying to stay committed to encouraging our young people to whatever it is that you do it well. Whatever it is that you do it well. And even if it's difficult, you don't get a right to give up. Even and what am I hoping for you? I'm hoping for failure. I can't wait for you to fail. I didn't know what people meant when they would talk like my grandmother and them when I was growing up. I didn't know what they meant. But they were telling me that they can't wait for me to build some resilience, just some grit, having the ability to persevere through tough situations and circumstances that seem insurmountable and intractable, like you can't fix them. You don't understand it, but that's the pressure. And when you make it out on the other side, you're like, well, for me, I stand, my foundation is my faith. But afterwards, you're like, Lord, I cried every day. But you're here. And you got through it. So the gender is important. We've lived at the intersection of race and gender our entire life. The racism, sexism, isn't a racism, sexism, every other ism you can think about. Are they alive? They are. But I would argue that we get to where we are, you two in your careers, not because you were black women. You are there in spite of the fact that you are black and you are women. Because in everything that we do, and this I proudly remind people of, no hiccups for us. Wherever we go, we have to prove proficiency. And Phyllis and Victoria, that's something now. Maybe I didn't like it. Maybe that's what this person can be mediocre and you can do something, but when I do it, every T better be crossed and every I dotted. And guess what? We are better for it. My expectations, are here. And so in everything that we do, we're going to serve that way because our real life lived experience required it. And so that's what I'm trying to do as mayor. I am a woman. Yes, hopefully the next woman who comes, because it's a path. Now it's a blueprint. There's no blueprint for me. So now to lay that with all of the amazing women who lift me up and men of looking like the United Nations, because my base, my rock, is the United Nations. It's people who come from all walks of life who have deposited into me. So I'm excited, and it's stressful and it's intense, but it's the greatest honor in the world that I can have to give back to a people in a city that gave so much to me when they didn't have to, and they did. So I owe what I'm doing right. A great deal of gratitude to Philadelphia. That's why I work so hard for them.
As we end this podcast, Victoria, what I want to recommend.
What'd you learn?
So if this was a sermon, title would be, it was good that I was afflicted. It was.
That's it.
Say that again.
It was good that I was a cub.
Can I will attribute it to you. No, but when I go and speak to young people, graduations, that'll be a part of it. Thank you for that.
Yes. And so you're perfect. Thank you for joining us today. For our mayor's Breda Dale podcast, you had a blast.
Sure did.
My sword, my friend, my elected official. Thank you.
Thank you for your support too. You've been a good teacher for me. When I remember Cecilia Harris connected us, and you've worked for presidents. You work for multiple presidents and first ladies and mayors, and you could really be, she's a candidate, but you were willing to share thoughts with me and ideas and talk with me, and kindness is everything to me. I'll never forget that about you. You're always kind to me, and it's an honor, Victoria, to meet you today.
Oh, Mayor, thank you. We greatly enjoyed you today. Thank you so much. Indeed.
Thank you.